What really happened on 9/11? I have this question. This is Avraham Saltoun from Jerusalem with one more Flash CS4 tutorial, and today we'll be learning about particles and smoke effects. For this we'll be throwing our plane at our own tower and over there we're gonna make our own explosion using particles and smoke effects. And this is why we're tracing our own Manhattan skyline, so we have our own towers to explode. I'm showing this very fast so we have an idea how the tracing was done. There are plenty of tracing tutorials on my websites, and that's the final result. Now that we have our own towers, we'll be creating the explosion. The explosion is made of three elements: particles, emotion preset, and the explosion symbol. Let's start by creating a particle inside of the explosion. Using the oval tool, press the shift down so we have a even circle. It will be creating a few edges on the circle so we have much more like a flake, and the whole explosion is going to come out of this. You rest the selection tool. When comes a small curve, press the control key down, drag and drop, and then we have edges on our circles. Now let's add a few more lines so we have an effect of a bubble, and we'll be bending these lines. How do we bend the lines? Rest the selection tool over the line until it turns a small circle. Here you go. Drag and drop, rest, small circle, drag and drop, rest, small circle, and drag and drop. We have our first particle, and we'll be reusing this particle, so therefore we'll be creating a symbol. Let's name particle, and we have our particle ready. The order of the explosion is we have a particle that expands and then splits on several different particles. So it's more or less two stages. Let's create the first explosion cloud. That's a very same particle that expands for 3 or 5 frames. Right click, add a frame on frame number 5. Right click and ask for create motion tween. Expand the particle, and let's test our movie. And here you go, we have a first expanding particle. That's all we need for now. That's the first stage. Eventually this particle will split on several smaller particles that will go each one of them on a different direction. Pretty much done over here. Let's name the layer. It's always a very good idea to name layers so things are clear. They tend to accumulate as we go along. Let's lock the layer and let's create a layer for the lines. When the first particle splits into smaller particles, we want a cartoon effect of a few lines, and let's put the lines there. Using the line tool is also a good idea to press shift so we have straight lines, each one of in the right angle. Try, see how it works, and we have our lines there. As soon as we're done now, we're going to again name the layer, lock the layer, and now let's start by first let's test more or less what we're doing, and we're creating a layer for the first particle. Now the particles that come after the explosion, they go into a direction, they expand and fade. That's the way the explosion is. So in theory we'll have to program each one of the particles to go on the same path. Flash CS4 has a powerful tool called a motion preset. I have a few tutorials on motion presets at my website, but what we'll be creating now is a motion preset that will be applying to each one of the particles. It goes on one direction, while going into that direction expands, fades, and disappears. And once we have the preset created, we can apply over and over. All we have to do is change the direction so they don't all go in the same direction, but they do the same thing. Let's create a frame and right click on the frame which will be the last one of the motion preset and ask for create a motion twin. Make sure that the player head is resting on top of the last frame of the animation. The last frame is a larger particle a bit away from the starting point. Let's ask for properties and apply a fade effect using the alpha. Now you have this line is called a motion path, and to save the motion preset we right click on the line, and on the menu has an option that says save as a motion preset. That's what we're doing now. Let's give a name, particle path, you name it. You can choose any name. You can also import export the motion presets, and you also have built-in motion presets on the default comes on Flash CS4. And before we apply the same motion preset over and over, let's test our movie so see what we are doing. I know that it doesn't look like the explosion you saw, but it's taking shape. Slowly it's taking shape. Now it's pretty much done with this layer. For each one of the particles we will be importing to stage now. I'm going to add a layer, insert a keyframe on the right place on the timeline, so you don't insert the keyframe at the beginning of the animation. And then we're going to apply the motion preset. We're going to change the rotating point of the motion preset and then change the direction, so each particle goes on a different direction. They do the same thing, they expand and they fade, but each one is an explosion. Each one of them goes into a different direction. Select, apply, and now you'll be changing the rotating point of the motion path. See, you have the small ball, and again I'm going to go over and over because again the particles, you don't have to, it is the same thing again and again. And we move, change the direction, lock the layer, add the layer, drag and drop, and apply, change the rotation point, and here you go. I'm trying to change the color here of the particle, and here you go, we change the direction, the rotating point, and let's see what's happening. And so we already have little by little our explosion is taking shape. I added a few more particles and I have an explosion now, a severe explosion, and it's inside of the symbol. All I need to do now is to place the explosion anywhere I want on the towers, but I have to synchronize the explosion with the plane that's coming. We have a plane symbol, and we have an explosion happening, and we're going to be importing a plane into stage. We want to make sure that the explosion starts when the plane hits the tower. So for that we'll be importing a plane. Now we all know that the plane came from the right, not from the left. Let's flip the plane horizontally. It's easy to do. Go to transform, and then you ask for flip horizontally. For creating a motion twin, you already know, rest the player head where is the last frame, drag and drop where you want the sign symbol to go. Let's test our movie. We have a flying plane that disappears when the explosion starts. Boom. And now let's import the sound, import the layer, create a new layer, file, import sound, drag and drop from the library, edit, and there we go.